Coming up on Network Africa, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu re-enacts the signing of the 1975 ECOWAS Declaration as the bloc celebrates 50th anniversary. For the first time, Namibia marks the national commemoration of Herero and Nama Genocide between 1904 and 1908. Plus, South African citizens raised concerns on increasing crime after 2 Nigerian nationals shot dead in Pretoria earlier this month. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin here in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu and former Nigerian head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, have taken part in the ceremonial signing of a commemorative card marking the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS. It's the reenactment of the signing of the 1975 ECOWAS Declaration at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Victoria Island, Lagos. The event was held in the conference chamber of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, where the original ECOWAS treaty was signed back in 1975. General Gowon, the only surviving leader among the original signatories of the treaty that established the Economic Community of West African States, was specially honored for his pioneering role in promoting regional integration. Also in attendance were the presidents of Liberia, Togo, and Guinea-Bissau, who jointly issued a declaration reaffirming their commitment to the founding ideals and aspirations of ECOWAS. Presidents of other member states were represented at the event, with the exception of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, which have withdrawn from the regional bloc due to political disagreements. In the meantime, the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria, ARCAN, have congratulated the ECOWAS bloc on its 50th anniversary. In a statement signed by the national president of ARCAN, Ambassador Joe Keshi, the association says it is confident that the bloc is well equipped to navigate the rapidly changing global environment to meet the aspirations of its citizens, and this is despite the withdrawal of three of its founding members, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. ARCAN is now calling on ECOWAS leaders to intensify all efforts to achieve the bloc's objectivity and ensure the security, prosperity, and well-being of citizens.
I'll be happy. I'm sure in 1975, when this was signed, Treaty of Lagos, very few people believed that it would last this much, because there were problems, language problems, personality problems, all kinds of problems. And yet, here we are celebrating 50 years. There are hiccups, but even nations that are 200 years old have hiccups. So really that there are problems does not mean that there's not been major achievement. You can travel by road to Ghana or to even Ivory Coast without anybody bothering you. Well, it is true, about corruption at the border and what have you, but nobody's going to ask you for it. You have the right to travel. So, to me, we should celebrate ECOWAS at 50.
Of West Africa.
And I'm sure in my heart that even though I won't be here, that 100 years people will still be celebrating ECOWAS. It is a milestone that we have, and we as Africans should be happy that we are telling the world we can overcome our problems.
In Namibia, for the first time, the country is marking its colonial genocide with a national day of remembrance. Dubbed Germany's Forgotten Genocide, it is described by historians as the first genocide of the 20th century. The systematic murder of more than 70,000 Africans. Almost 40 years before their use in the Holocaust, concentration camps and pseudoscientific experiments were used by German officials to torture and kill people in what was then called Southwest Africa. The victims, primarily from the Over-Herero and Nama communities, were targeted because they refused to let their colonizers take their land and cattle. Genocide Remembrance Day in Namibia on Wednesday follows years of pressure on Germany to pay reparations. We're in South Africa now, where citizens say government efforts to curb crime are falling short. This follows the tragic killing of two Nigerian citizens, Adeyemi Issa and Taiwo Raji, who were shot dead in Pretoria earlier this month. Meanwhile, Police Minister Senzo Nchunu recently released the country's latest crime statistics, showing that 4 provinces, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape and Eastern Cape, account for the majority of murder cases nationwide. While the figures reflect a slight improvement compared to the same period last year, residents in Pretoria say the numbers offer little comfort. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Semosa has more in this report.
The city of Pretoria is reeling after 2 innocent lives were cut short in a brutal act of violence. Adeyemi Issa and Taiwo Raji, husbands, fathers and community members, were gunned down in cold blood earlier this month after a taxi driver accused them of stealing a cell phone. Both men had made South Africa their home and were married to South African women. Today, their families are left to pick up the pieces. Mbuki Mandlazi, widow of Adeyemi Issa.
It seems like to be a foreigner it's a crime. And it's not all foreigners that are in this country that are bad. It's not all the foreigners that are in this place that are selling drugs. It's not all foreigners that are in South Africa that are stealing. But end of the day, in few days, every now and then we heard there were so foreigner was killed, but there won't be, nobody will be arrested for that. Where is our government in South Africa? One.
She says her oldest son is frightened now. He's even too scared to go back to school.
Few days ago, Gina asked me, Mommy, can you please show me the picture of who killed my father? I said, no, I don't have. Because you know why? Yeah, he's scared. This man couldn't want to go to school. Because he said, what if you send people, they'll know me, I won't know them. He said, Mama, I'm a minor. If he has a guts to take a gun and come to shoot my father without doing anything, am I safe? I cried with him.
The question they're asking is, how many more families must they bury before the government act? They need protection and justice.
Which crime they did foreigners in this country, because they are trying to hustle themselves. If now they are putting stand, selling cigarettes, as South African will say that they are taking our job, whereby us, we are lazy, we don't want to work. If they are trying to open saloons, they will say that they are taking our jobs. Which jobs they are taking from us, as we don't want to do anything?
This man says crime is spiraling out of control. He says they live in fear every day.
Because killing of black people in South Africa is getting worse. Every day getting worse. Every day getting worse. Every week getting worse. We don't know what is going on. And we need African leaders to sit down, to please ask President Ramaphosa why this is happening in South Africa. As a black man, you can't walk free in South Africa.
Devastating news coming out of Pretoria, South Africa. These women are calling for the Nigerian embassy and the South African government to see to it that the perpetrators are indeed brought to book. From Pretoria, South Africa, Innocent Semosa, Channels Television News.
Back here in West Africa, in Côte d'Ivoire, the African Development Bank Group has downgraded the continent's gross domestic product to 3.9% in 2025 and 4% in 2026. Data released by the group from the Economic Outlook report at the ongoing general meetings indicate that macroeconomic indices are mixed as inflation tends downward. Our business editor, John McClure, gives us more in this report.
The second day of the African Development Bank Group's general meeting has even more delegates traveling from different parts of the continent to join in. The first gathering is a formal opening ceremony, which has in attendance presidents, vice presidents, ministers, as well as representatives of funding institutions and operators in the private sector. The host, President Akinwumi Adesina, celebrated resilience recorded on the continent.
Africa is still standing and standing tall.
Dr.
Thank you for your support.
shares appreciation to countries that have supported this status.
To President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, my president, and the Vice President Kashim Shettima, for your support over the past 2 years, I am profoundly very grateful. Thank you for graciously approving the replenishment of the Nigerian Trust Fund for another 15 years. I understand will be about $500 million.
In another meeting, the high point of the day is in focus, the group's findings on the continent's economic outlook. The Vice President and Chief Economist, Professor Kevin Urama, shares the numbers, which in some cases shows the resilience of Africa's economy.
Significant challenges in our macroeconomic fundamentals continue to remain, but even there, we see a mixed picture.
Yes, there's work to be done.
This continent can mobilize 1.43 trillion US dollars every year without increasing tax rate.
The AFDB comes with a message of hope, but one that can only be realized when discipline is applied in the management of resources. John McClure, Channels Television News.
As South Sudan prepares for its first elections as a sovereign state, the United Nations peacekeeping mission in the country, UNMISS, alongside the UN Development Programme and other partners, are helping to build the infrastructure needed to progress this important milestone in the country's journey from conflict to peace and democracy. A newly renovated office has been handed over to electoral authorities in Central Equatorial State to support processes to bolster transparency and accessibility in the electoral process. Interim chairperson of the reconstituted Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, Major General George Owino, says the new office space will help strengthen the engagement of the Central Equatorial State Electoral Committee.
As much as the physical space for preparing for holding elections is a good requisite, there are also other types of spaces that are also equally important. These are mainly the political and the civic space. The ongoing process of building a unified, peaceful and prosperous society in South Sudan requires the will of the people to be faithfully reflected in their own governance, which is best articulated through such elections. The best to achieve this, the protection and expansion of political and civic space is needed, and therefore facilitating the inclusion of all stakeholders, particularly the women and the young people in the process.
This is not merely an unveiling of a physical structure, but a reaffirmation of our collective commitment to democratic governance, peace, and the right of our citizens to choose their leaders through free, fair, credible, and transparent election.
The National Election Commission needs clarity. It needs political clarity, it needs legal clarity, and above all, it needs financial clarity for the way forward in order to make positive progress toward elections.
Above them all, what we need is peace. A culture of peace must be brought into existence.
Welcome back to the program. When the civil war erupted in 2013 in South Sudan, the residents of High Mata village were forced to flee their homes and seek sanctuary in a United Nations protection of civilians site in Malakal, Upper Nile. Well, 12 years later, they have finally returned to the land they left behind, moving into 128 new shelters constructed by humanitarian agencies and other partners. The community has also been joined by many returnees who crossed the border back into South Sudan to escape the brutal war in neighboring Sudan. The initiative was led by the UN family, including UNHCR, the IOM and the United Nations Mine Action Service, which cleared 5 million square meters of land of unexploded ordnance to provide a safe environment for living.
Of this place, who will show examples to others who may need to be coming after you, understand the fact that you need to work together as one. And not only because it is good, but because anything that speaks for disagreement, conflict, and disunity forestalls growth and development. This is just the beginning. We are hoping that this place will develop into something much bigger and better than this. But the path to that development and growth is by unity, collaboration, cooperation, and living together as one in peace.
As humanitarians, we walk the journey with you to a certain extent, but we hand it over to you. This has been mentioned as a durable solution. We want to bring back High Matar to where it was, but we cannot be with you to bring it back all the way. Otherwise, some other locations would suffer, and as you've heard, we don't have the money for that. We set the ground for you and then leave it for you to develop.
Nigerians and other Africans seeking to study in the United States may face longer wait times for their student visas following a new directive from U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to suspend student visa appointments globally. It's part of plans to, it's also part of plans to implement sweeping social media screening for all international applicants. According to a U.S. State Department memo issued on Tuesday, embassies and consulates worldwide, including those in Nigeria, have been instructed to pause scheduling any new appointments for student FM and exchange visitor J visas until further notice. The memo directs U.S. embassies to remove any unfilled appointments from their calendars for students seeking visas, but said those appointments already scheduled could go ahead. According to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the pause will last until further guidance is issued. Over 1 million foreign students contribute an estimated $43.8 billion to the U.S. economy annually, including thousands of Africans. Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C. is expected to reopen tomorrow, Thursday, 29th of May, after it was temporarily closed amid an investigation into an alleged visa scam. A statement from the Foreign Affairs Ministry says the embassy will reopen as necessary measures have been put in place to clear the backlog, and adding that any inconvenience resulting from necessary interventions is deeply regretted. It said the unfortunate circumstances that led to the closure of the embassy had been brought to the attention of the Auditor General and the Attorney General of Ghana for further action and appropriate sanctions. Earlier in the week, Foreign Affairs Minister Maxwell Abaga revealed damning findings of an audit team he had put together to investigate alleged corruption at the Washington diplomatic mission. Well, joining us now for more on this is Joy News TV correspondent Maxwell Abaga in Accra. Hello, Maxwell. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa. I imagine the announcement of the reopening of the embassy in Washington is a relief to many. Does this mean the Foreign Ministry has concluded its investigation into the alleged visa scam?
Well, the investigations into that allegation has not concluded yet. We are told that the Auditor General and then the Attorney General would be investigating the matter. now processes are underway and the investigation is actually underway. As you would know, in a situation like this, people who are very key to the matter would have to be questioned. They would have to provide responses. And after their responses, after they provided their responses, then the Auditor General and then the Attorney General will come to the conclusion on who is guilty and who is not guilty. But that would actually be determined by the Court of Competent Jurisdiction. But at this stage right now, we understand there's a forensic audit underway by the Auditor General of Ghana. Then when that audit is finished, is concluded, then the case will be forwarded to the Attorney General. If it's forwarded to the Attorney General, then we know that the Attorney General would also forward the case up to the courts. Then a trial will begin, and then those implicated and those who are found guilty would then be prosecuted and then possibly jailed.
All right, then. Thank you so much. We'll wait and see how it all pans out. Thank you, Maxwell Abaga, Joy News TV correspondent. Well, Kenya's President William Ruto has publicly apologized to Tanzania following days of tension between the two countries. Some Kenyans on social media have been targeting President Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania following the recent detention and deportation of prominent East African activists. Angry Tanzanian members of parliament on Monday accused Kenyans of cyberbullying and disrespecting Tanzania's sovereignty. While speaking at a national prayer breakfast on Wednesday, President Ruto appeared to extend an olive branch to Tanzania. He also apologized to young Kenyans, popularly known as Gen Zs, who have been critical of his administration since the deadly anti-tax protest last June. The president made the remarks in response to a call by visiting U.S. preacher Ricky Allen, who urged leaders to pursue reconciliation. Well, China will continue to build on existing relations with Nigeria, even using this year's Children's Day. The Chinese consulate in Lagos held an event in Festac where it hosted children from different schools and awarded prizes to those who won in the art competition to also mark this year's Dragon Festival in China. Our correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
The children may not realize it now, but their presence at the Children's Day celebration and Dragon Boat Festival celebration by the Chinese consulates in Lagos is important to fostering diplomatic and cultural ties between Nigeria and China. The Chinese Consul General in Lagos, Ms. Yan Yuqing, interacts with the children and highlights the importance of them participating in the third Nigerian Children's Drawing Competition. The event is organized by the consulate in partnership with the Huajing Arts Troupe Nigeria and the Chinese Women Association.
I always say that culture knows no boundaries, right? So cultural exchange is like a bridge for threatening China-Nigeria friendship and cooperation. Because, you know, China and Nigeria all have long history and splendid culture. Yeah, China has more than 5,000 years civilization. Nigeria is known also like a birthplace of civilization in Africa. So I believe that all of you will be the envoy of China-Nigeria friendship.
In Nigeria, where though tongues and tribes may differ, we will stand in brotherhood, proud to serve our sovereign motherland, a nation where one helps to lift the other up, a nation where peace and justice reign, a nation ready to hand over to our children a banner without stain, a nation where the one child on the streets of Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt, to the remote village in Nigeria has a sense of belonging. And this, I believe, is what the China community in Nigeria is trying to do.
Saturday, May 31st, is the Dragon Boat Festival in China. It is a traditional Chinese holiday that occurs on the 5th day of the 5th month of the Chinese calendar, which corresponds to late May or early June in the Gregorian calendar. It is one of the 3 festivals of the living, along with the Chinese New Year and the Mid-Autumn Festival. The highlight of this year's celebration of Children's Day is the art competition, which welcomed participants aged 5 to 15 years. It attracted an impressive 2,600 students from 89 schools across the southwest region.
Children is hope, is the future. We are Chinese community more support children. Even today, China both Dragon Boat Festival. So we still use this Chinese additional festival for the children painter the competition.
After rigorous evaluation, 25 talented young artists were selected for the final round, from which emerged 20 winners. Master Ekemini Confidence claimed the grand prize of 500,000 naira, while the second and third place winners took home 300,000 and 200,000 naira respectively. The remaining 14 finalists took home consolation prizes of 50,000 naira. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.